Good morning, class. I'm going to revise the lesson The Great Stone Face, written by Nathaniel Hawthorne. And this is the part 2 of your lesson. We have already done part 1 of our lesson. So be ready with this part. Okay. And first I will be like to tell you about the summary of both the lesson, and then we will be doing the explanation of the lesson. So let's get ready with the summary of part 1 and part 2. The Great Stone Face, written by Nathaniel Hawthorne. So, Great Stone Face was the work of nature. It was formed on the other side of a mountain by some rocks. Seen from the distance, they looked like a human face and alive. Going near, the face turned into a heap of rock. Not only that, people used to believe that the fertility of the whole valley was due to that great stone face. One day, a mother and her little child, Arne, sat at the door of their cottage. He wished that the great stone face could speak. The mother hoped to see a man sometime with a similar face. She told him a curious story. She herself had heard it in her childhood. A great man bearing the stone face would be born someday. That was a prophecy. What is the meaning of prophecy, student? I've already told you. Prophecy means forecast. Ernest could never forget that story. He was very helpful and dutiful towards his mother. He every time used to care for her mother and often used to help her. He grew up to be a gentle and a very nice person, generous and noble person. And children, he always used to look at the stone face, and he felt that the stone face was his teacher. The child used to watch it for hours. Once a rumor spread that the great man who was to bear a resemblance to the great stone face had appeared at last. Many years ago, a young man had left the valley and settled at a distant seaport. He became very rich. Then he decided to return to his native place. He was Mr. Gathergold. People welcomed him as a great man because he resembled the great stone face. But Ernest did not agree with these people. Years went on. Ernest grew to be a young man. He drew little attention. He had nothing remarkable. But he was hard-working and kind. He still loved to gaze upon the great stone face. He wondered why the stone-faced man was taking so long in coming to that valley. Mr. Gathergold died as a poor man and was buried. People then agreed that there was no likeness between the ruined merchant and the majestic face upon the mountain. It so happened that another son of the valley returned to his native village. He had become a famous commander. The people turned to him blindly and accepted him as the great stone face, but Ernest could not see any similarity between them. So he believed that he is not the face, and one day some other person will come with the face which will remember the face at the rock. Now children, I'm going to start with the second part of the story, The Great Stone Face, part 2, written by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Many years passed. Ernest was now a middle-aged man. Age brought white hairs upon his head and wrinkles across his face. But it also made him very wise. He became famous in the valley. Learned men from cities came to see him and talk to him. When Ernest had been growing old, A new poet, who was previously the native of that valley, arrived there. He had spoken high of the great stone face also in this poem. His songs also reached Ernest's ear. It appeared to him that his face had the likeness of the stone face. The poet too had heard of Ernest's wisdom and wished to meet him. One summer day he arrived at Ernest's door. He sought a night shelter. Ernest readily agreed. The two talked together. The poet found his host very wise, gentle, kind, and hospitable. Ernest looked into the poet's eyes and features. He compared the poet's face with that of the stone face. When the poet asked him why he was looking sad, he told that all through his life he had awaited the fulfillment of a prophecy, and when he read his poem, he became convinced that the poet was the real stone-faced man. But today he felt that he is not the man for whom he was waiting for. The poet, however, claimed that he did not bear the likeness to the stone face. It was true that he had high dreams in his mind, but sometimes he himself had no belief in those dreams. The eyes of both were wet with tears. In the evening together they went to a meeting place. Ernest spoke out his thoughts. His words had power because they had depth. They were the words of life, a life of good deeds and selfless love. His face took on a grand expression. The poet cried out that Ernest was the real likeness of that stone face. The people agreed with him. The prophecy was fulfilled. The poet thought so, but Ernest still kept hoping that some wiser and better man than himself would appear, looking very much like the great stone face. So, children, the great stone face too. Finally, children, if we will read the lesson, we will come to know at last that actually the grand face resembles the face of Ernest only, and his powerful word and his speech about selfless love were the reality which people used to think that face, if he would have come, he would have also spoken those words which Ernest was speaking. So they took him they thought that he is the man, Ernest is the man who really resembles the great stone face. Okay, so now I will be doing the reading, I will be explaining the lesson, the great stone face part 2. Now children, we have already done the explanation of part 1, and now we will be explaining I will be explaining the great stone face part 2, chapter number 10 and page number 132. So before you read, let me read the appetizer. Many years passed. Ernest was now a man of middle age. To his neighbors, who never suspected that he was anything more than an ordinary and familiar face, he was only a humble and hard-working, though thoughtful person. But what about the old prophecy? Was it ever fulfilled? Let us read and find out. The years hurried on. So children, some of the difficult words I will be writing on the board. First one is suspected. Okay. Doubt. Okay. Then familiar is well known and prophecy is forecast. well known, and prophecy is forecast. So these three new words are there. Okay. So many years passed. Ernest was now a man of middle age. To his neighbors, who never suspected, that means who never doubted that he was anything more than ordinary. That means they never had this thing in mind that Ernest was more than an ordinary person. And familiar face, and children, his face was a bit familiar. He was only a humble and hard working. He was very humble and he was a hard working person, though very thoughtful person. But what about the old prophecy? Prophecy is forecast. Was it ever fulfilled? Now children, that prophecy was ever fulfilled. Let us read and find out. So let us read and find it out. Now the explanation of the lesson will be there, and let's see. The years hurried on and brought white hairs upon the head of Ernest. Now children, time passes and Ernest became very old and made wrinkles, so his hairs went silvery white and made wrinkles across his forehead. Okay, and he started having wrinkles on his forehead first and furrows in his cheeks. What is the meaning of furrows? Furrows means deep lines. Furrows means deep lines, and furrows became deep on his cheeks. So they were deep line on his cheeks. He was an old man. He became an old man, but not in vain had he grown old. But actually children, he was an old man. He was having wrinkles. His hair was white, but in reality he was not an old man. He was having a nice thinking. He was a hard working, every time eager to do the work. More numerous than the white hairs on his head were the wise thoughts in his mind. So many white hairs were on his body that were the symbol of white hair. That means the wise thoughts in the mind. And Ernest has ceased to be obscure, unsought for. And Ernest had ceased to be obscure. Obscure is not well known and unsought. Okay. And Ernest had ceased. Cease means to stop. To be obscure, not well known. Now children, he is known by everybody and unsought for. Okay. He is not. Now he was being noted by everyone. Unsought means ignores. Now nobody ignores him. He became noted by mostly everybody. Undesired had come to the fame which so many seek. And children, he had become famous beyond the limit of the valley. Now children, he did not only became famous inside the village, but he became famous beyond the limits of the valley. College professors and even the active men of cities came from far to see and converse with Ernest. He became so wise that college professor and many famous people of the city, they came to him to take the advice. So student, college professors and even the active and the wisest men of the cities came from far to see and converse with Ernest. And he received them with gentle sincerity and spoke freely with them of whatever came uppermost or lay deepest in his heart or their own. While they talked together, his face would brighten unawares and shine upon them as with a mild evening light. Unawares means unknowingly. What is the meaning of unaware? Unknowingly. So children, Ernest, children, page 133, second paragraph. While Ernest had been growing old, God had granted a new poet to this earth. So here Ernest was growing old, and there the God had granted a new poet on this earth. He too was a native of the valley. So that person was also the native of the valley, but had spent the great part of his life in distant city. And children, he had spent a great part of his life in the distant city, pouring out his sweet music everywhere. Everywhere, whenever he used to go, he used to pour out his sweet music. Neither was the great stone face forgotten, for the poet had celebrated in a poem. Now, children, the great stone face was not forgotten. The poet had celebrated in a poem. The song of this poet found their way to Ernest. He read them after his customary toil. Customary toil means usual work. Okay, so what is the meaning of customary toil? Usual work. Okay. Now, seated on the bench before his cottage door, and he lifted his eyes to the mountain. Customary toil is still unusual work. Oh, great stone face, he said, is not this man worthy to be your likeness? Is not this man worthy to be your likeness? The face seemed to smile, but did not answer. So, children, he said to the great stone face, is not this man worthy to be your likeness? The face seemed to smile, but did not answer. Children, they had, what to say, telepathy. They used to talk through their mind. Okay. Now it happened that the poet, though he lived so far away, had not only heard of Ernest, but had thought much about his character, and wished to meet this man whose wisdom walked hand in hand with the noble simplicity of his life. Now, children, the poet, he had heard a lot about Ernest, okay, who had become a very famous character, and wished to meet this man whose wisdom walked hand in hand with the noble simplicity of his life. One summer day, therefore, he arrived at Ernest's door, where he found the good old man holding a book in his hand. So, what did he found? He arrived at Ernest's door, where he found the good old man holding a book in his hand, which he read, and then with a finger between his the leaves looked lovingly at the great stone face. Now, children, one day the poet, he arrived at the door of Ernest, where he found the good old man holding a book in his hand, which he read, and then with a finger between the leaves looks lovingly at the great stone face. Good evening, said the poet. Can you give a traveler a night's shelter? Gladly, answered Ernest, and then he added, smiling, I think I never saw the great stone face look so hospitably at a stranger. Hospitality means gently or kindly. So, children, good evening, said the poet. Can you give traveler a night shelter? Now, children, that poet, he came to the house of this Ernest, and he asked him about the night shelter. Good evening, said the poet. Can you give a traveler a night shelter? And Ernest told, yes, I can. He told, gladly, I would like to give you a night shelter. And then he added, smiling, I think I never saw the great stone face look so hospitably at a stranger. And children, he thought that his face is resembling the great stone face. The poet sat down beside him. Okay, and let's see what they had a talk. The poet sat down beside him and he and Ernest talked together. So the poet sat beside him and he and Ernest talked together. Never before had the poet talked with a man like Ernest, who had never talked with a man like Ernest, so wise and gentle. According to children, this man, he was very wise, and not only wise, children, he was very gentle and kind. Ernest, on the other hand, was moved by the living image flung out of the poet's mind. Ernest, on the other hand, was moved by the living image. Flung means offered out of poet's mind. As Ernest listened to the poet, he imagined that the great stone face was bending forward to listen to. He gazed into the poet's eyes. "Who are you, my gifted guest?" he asked. The poet laid his finger on the book that Ernest had been reading. "You have read this poem," said he. "You know me, then, for I wrote them." Now, children, when Ernest told that even the great stone face was bending forward to listen to, he gazed into the poet's eyes and he told, "Who are you, my gifted guest?" Then the guest told, he laid his finger on the books that Ernest had been reading. He said, "You have read this poem," said he. "You know me, then, for I wrote them." He told, "Yes, this poem is written by me only. I am the person who is the poet and wrote this poem." Again and again, Ernest examined the poet's features. He turned towards the great stone face, then back. He shook his head and sighed. Now, children, earlier he thought that this man might be resembling the great stone face, and he started looking at this poet face. But finally, he shook his head and he sighed. "Why are you sad?" inquired the poet. Then finally the poet asked him, "Why are you so sad?" Because, replied Ernest, "all through life I have awaited the fulfillment of a prophecy." He told me, "Throughout the life I have been waiting for a prophecy. And when I read this poem, I hope that it might be fulfilled in you." And he told me, when I started reading this poem, I thought that you are the person who will resemble the great stone face. "You hoped," answered the poet, faintly smiling, "to find in me the likeness of the great stone face." Now the poet told him, "Okay, so you are the one who thought that my face will be like the great stone face. I am not worthy to be its likeness." So he told straight away that I am not worthy to be compared with that great stone face. "And why not?" asked Ernest. So Ernest asked him, "Why not?" He pointed to the book. "Are not those thoughts really worthy?" Now, children, he pointed out to the books and he told, "Don't you feel this, whatever you have written, this is quite a worthy? You can hear in them the distant voice of a heavenly song." Distance means coming from far. "You can hear in them the distant voice of a heavenly song. But my life, dear Ernest, has not corresponded with my thought." Corresponded means in harmony with. He is telling, but whatever life I am passing, it is not having harmony with my thoughts. "I have had grand dreams, but they have been only dreams." He is telling, I have been looking a nice dream, but till now those dreams have not been fulfilled. They have just remained as only my dreams. "Sometimes I lack faith in my own thoughts." And he is telling, not only that, sometimes I lack faith in my own thought. "Why then, pure seeker of the good and true, should you hope to find me in the face of the mountain?" And she is telling, "Why then, pure seeker of the good?" Now, children, some man who should be really very good and worthy and true, that person should you hope to. He is telling that person's face, "Why are you trying to find me in the face of the mountain?" The poet spoke sadly and his eyes were met with tears. Now, children, he told, so the poet told, "I am not the man and I am not matching with this great stone face." The poet spoke sadly and his eyes were wet with tears. So too were those of Ernest. So, children, both of the people started crying. At the hour of the sunset, as had long been his custom, Ernest was to speak to a group of neighbors in the open air. So, children, Ernest, as long been his custom, Ernest was to speak to a group of neighbors in the open air. Together, he and the poet went to the meeting place, arm in arm. From there could be seen the great stone face. So, children, from there could be seen the great stone face. Ernest corresponded with, agreed with. Custom is habit. Okay. Now, at the hour of sunset, as had long been his custom, Ernest was to speak to a group of neighbors in the open air. Now, children, it was a custom today. Now, Ernest was going to speak with a group of neighbors in the open air. Together, he and the poet went to the meeting place. Now, children, this time with Ernest, the poet also went to the meeting place, and he told that arm in arm, both were holding each other's arm. From there could be seen the great stone face, and children, they stood to the point where they could see the great stone face. Ernest threw a look of familiar uh, kindness around upon his audience. Now, children, Ernest looked the audience with the same look of kindness. He began to speak to the people what was in his heart and mind. And children, he started addressing the people. He started speaking whatever was coming to his heart and his mind. His word had power because they agreed with his thought. So, children, his words had power. Children, those words, it agreed with the thoughts, and his thought had reality and depth. And children, his thoughts had reality and depth because they harmonized with the life which he had always lived. Because they harmonized with the life which he had always lived. It was not mere breath that the preacher uttered. It was not mere breath that the preacher uttered. They were the words of life. So, children, it was not the word of a preacher, but it were the words of the life. A life of good deeds and selfless love was melted into them. So, children, it was a life of good deeds and selfless love was melted upon into them. The poet, as he listened, felt that the life and character of Ernest were a nobler strain of poetry. Now, children, the poet, as he listened, felt that the life and character of Ernest were a nobler strain of poetry than he had ever written. His eyes filled with tears, and he said to himself that never was there so worthy a sage as that mild, sweet, thoughtful face with the glory of white hair diffuse about it. Now, the poet, as he listened, felt that the life and character of Ernest were a noble strain of poetry that he had ever written. His eyes filled with tears, and he said to himself that never was there so worthy a sage as that mild, sweet, thoughtful face with the glory of white hair diffuse about it. So, children, these were the wordings of the poet. At a distance, but clearly to be seen, high up in the golden light of the setting sun, appeared the great stone face, and white mist around it, like the white hairs around the brow of Ernest. Children, the white mist was gathered around the mountains. It was looking like the white hairs of around the brow of Ernest. At that moment, Ernest's face looked on an expression so grand that the poet was moved to throw his arms upon and shout, "Behold, behold, Ernest is himself the likeness of the great face." Now, children, suddenly he realized that the Ernest's face had a same expression so grand that the poet was moved to throw his arms up and shout, "Behold, behold, Ernest himself is the likeness of the great stone face." Then all the people looked and saw that what the poet said was true. Now, children, everybody started looking at Ernest, and he felt whatever the poet said, it was true. Ernest really had the expression of that great stone face, and whatever he said, it was true. the prophecy was fulfilled. Finally, children, everybody told that it is the face of Ernest, okay, which really resemble the great stone face. And finally, they told the prophecy was fulfilled. But Ernest, having finished what he had to say, took the poet's arm and walked slowly homeward, still hoping that some wiser and better man than himself would by and by appear. Now, Ernest, he is in a very affectionate manner. He put his hand on children, on that poet's arm. He took the poet's arm and walked slowly homeward. He was still hoping that some wiser and better man than himself would by and one day will appear, bearing a resemblance to the great stone face. And finally, children, uh, this was children. Finally, the prophecy came true, and it was in earnest. People saw that his hair, his brow, and his whole facial expression is resembling the great stone face. So finally, it was Ernest who resembled the great stone face, but he was such a noble person that he still was waiting. That one day he did not want that he should look like a great stone face. He was still waiting that one day by this the same face will appear, bearing a resemblance to the great stone face. So with this I end my chapter here, and in my next video we will be doing the important question and answer. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.